Yep. Good evening, everyone. So, yesterday we started discussing about JavaScript functions. So, why we need to learn about functions concept I explained. So, why we are learning about functions? Because the components are created by using what? Functions. So, in functions, yesterday few concepts we learned. I will give a summary what we discussed. We learnt about function declaration. We learnt about function expression. We learnt about function uh, structure. So in function structure, you have declare, signature, and the definition. Function definition. We discussed about what is function call, and IIFE. We know about anonymous function. Anonymous function means, so it is a function without name. What is IIFE pattern? It is a pattern used to invoke the function with expression. Function with declaration are accessed using function call. Function with expression are accessed by using IIFE. So we discussed about anonymous. We learned about function parameters. So we discussed about actual parameters. We discussed about formal parameters. So we learned about arguments. What are arguments? These are the points we learned in previous. Anything else we missed? No, these are all the topics we learned. No? I hope everyone clear. So about all these concepts. So what is difference between declaration and expression? Declaration allows hoisting. Expression will not allow hoist. Can we hoist using var? No. Var can hoist a variable but cannot hoist a function. Functions cannot be hoisted. We can never hoist the function. Okay. Now, okay. Next important, we discussed one more thing. You missed higher order. Na? Higher order function. Higher order function means a function that takes another function as parameter, or a function that returns a function. Return we will see now. So if a function is taking another function as parameter, then that function is called higher order function, right? Now, so we discussed one more thing. What can be parameter type? Parameter type can be primitive, non-primitive, or a function. If it is a function, then higher order. We call it as higher order function. So next important is, after understanding this concept, we need to know about some more detail about parameters. So parameters, parameters precedence. There is no parameter precedence concept here, but some rules we need to learn. So first point is, So you can define a function with multiple parameters. We can have a function with multiple parameters. We can have more than one parameter. And so they have order dependency. Parameters have order dependency. So you need to access and use in the same precedence. In the same precedence, how you configured. In the same precedence, how you configured. So what is meaning of this is parameters, you can have multiple parameters and you have to access in the same precedence. For example, function name, we have parameter 1 and parameter 2. If you have multiple parameters, we have to access in the same order, value 1 and value 2. We need to define in the same order. For example, if I pass value 1 and not value 2, now what will be the parameter 2? What will be the parameter 2? Parameter 2 is undefined. Parameter 2 is undefined. For example, into the name, you are passing value 2. Now what will be the parameter? You are passing second value in first parameter. Then what happens? Parameter 1 will have value 2. And the parameter 2 will be always undefined. How many parameters are there? You have to pass those many values. And in the same order you have to pass. You need to pass in the same order. So it have order dependency and you can define. Now, if anyone asks you, like here, if the value is not passed, then what it will return? Already a given. So if value is not passed, it will always return what? Undefined. Now in JavaScript, we have a mechanism default parameter. We have default parameters. So usually what is advantage is here JavaScript supports default parameters. It will support default parameters. What is the concept of default parameter is actually we have a function, some print. Into that function, we have ID, name and price. And document.write, we are printing name and price. I am printing name, in the next line price. We are printing name and price. Now we will access print. Into that, we are passing name like TV. And the price is undefined. We are not passing the price. Then see what it will do. It is going to print the name and price is what? Undefined. Price is undefined. So what JavaScript supports is it supports default parameter. Default parameters are nothing but the parameters which can be initialized with a value. In JavaScript, you can define parameters and directly initialize some value. When it will take the value, if the parameter is undefined, then default value is taken. And you will see that the parameter is not defined, then it will take default. If parameter is defined, suppose it is defined with a new value, it will replace the default value. If parameter is not defined, it will take default. So if any parameter you think that user can ignore, user may skip, and even if he skips, I need to take one, then you can keep it as what? Default. So that means, for example, you asked like add item into shopping cart. When user adds an item into shopping cart, he need to select one quantity. But if we don't select the quantity, by default, we will take one quantity. That means we will set up with default parameter. He don't enter the quantity, default is 1. We can put some default values. But remember, the default values are used when the parameter is undefined. Parameter is undefined. So, for example, you see, this is very interesting. Little bit complicated, but you can understand. See, second parameter I am taking through prompt, and I will say enter price. For experienced people, these kind of tricks they apply in question. You see now, I'm entering, I'm skipping the price. How do we skip the price? I will use cancel. Then what it should take? 5000 default parameter. It will not take. Why it will not take? Because you learnt in JavaScript prompt will return null. Prompt will return null. It will not return undefined. So when default parameters are used, only when it is undefined. What is difference between null and undefined in JavaScript? Null means value not there. Undefined is also value not there. At compile time, if value is not there, then it is undefined. If at runtime dynamically value is not there, then it is not undefined. It is taken as what? Null. So null indicates that there is no value provided at runtime. Undefined indicates that there is no value provided at compile time. If compile time value is not provided, then it will set it to undefined. At runtime value is not provided, then it will be null. You see, when I click cancel, you know already prompt returns null when you click cancel. And when it returns null, it will not take the default. Default is taken only when you define undefined. The parameters are undefined. So default parameters. So a default parameter can be initialized with a value so that it can be used when value is undefined, so that it can be used when value is undefined. Default parameter is used only when it is undefined. Default parameter is used only when it is undefined. So syntactically, you can have a function with a name. Parameter can have a value. If you just pass and it takes the value, so if you pass a new value, then you know new value is used. Am I right? That is the basic syntax. So if it is not undefined, if it is null or something else, then we have a problem. So you need to verify. So in JavaScript, what are the basic points you should know? What is formal parameter? What is actual parameter? And what is default parameter? So what are default parameters? Default parameters are initialized with a value. So when those default parameters are used, when the parameter is undefined. Understood? When the parameter is undefined, then the default parameter is used, right? Next important. Remember, these are all rules about parameters. Next important, rest and spread. While working with parameters, next important thing is rest and spread. Actually, if anyone asks like how many parameters we can define in a function, you tell in your technology, if you are learning any technology, in your technology, how many parameters are allowed in a method or a function? Obviously, there will not be unlimited. Obviously, there will not be anything like infinite. There is a limit. There is a limit. How many? Actually, officially, any programming language will not put any limits for a number of parameters. But according to the operating system standards, this parameter, the length of how many characters are possible inside a function memory, how many they are possible in a function memory is 65 535. 65 535 characters are allowed. Now it depends on how many parameters, means depends on your parameters and their length. That means a function parameter scope allows 65 535. What is this number? What is this number? It is a number, it is a limit number of a computer that have 64-bit memory. Your computers are 64-bit memory, your laptops. In a 64-bit memory, the maximum limit of characters allowed is 65 535. That means there is no limit for how many parameters we can have. But there is a limit for characters. That means you can have any number of parameters, but all together cannot exceed 65 35. 65 535 parameters or characters? Characters. They are not parameters. They are not parameters. Some technologies have a restriction 1024 parameters. They support 1024 parameters. But maximum limit is 65 535. That means there is no limit. But can you tell me, in computer programming languages, is there any issue with having a function method with parameters? Is there any issue with parameterized functions. Yes. If a function is expecting parameters, then we have problem with those functions. What is the major problem with those functions? The functions with parameter allow lot of injection attacks. When you learn Oracle and all, you will learn SQL injection, cross-site scripting attacks. In software technologies, if a app is accepting some parameters, then we have a threat. That means hackers, how they can hack your application? By passing a value. Am I right? They can pass one value and they can hack your application. So when a value is accepted from him, when your function is parameterized, then only he can pass. So using too many parameters is not safe. It leads to lot of injection attacks. And not only that, it leads to lot of memory leak. Memory may leak. Parameters can be hacked. That is the reason at high level programming, we don't prefer using too many parameters. Using too many parameters, we don't prefer. So, what is the point here? So, let's see what is the concept here. First, what is the point here is a function can be defined with multiple parameters. Can be defined with multiple parameters. There is no official limit for number of parameters. But a 64 bit size memory can handle 65,535 characters. That is the limit. There is no official limit, but 64-bit memory means it can handle 65,535 characters. Now, very important is using too many parameters may lead to injection attacks and memory leaks. So it is not safe. So using too many parameters may lead to injection attacks. You know what is SQL injection, all this? Nah. Generally, when you learn any server side programming, database programming, you will learn about securities. That means you are developing a Java, .NET, Python, full stack application. One of the main thing you should consider every time is how you prevent your application from being hacked. So privacy, security are very important. Security privacy means not about user ID passwords. It is about protecting our application from different attacks. There are so many things you will learn in your technologies. When you learn backend and all, you will learn like XSRF, cross-site request forgery, cross-site scripting attacks. Later, here also, when situation comes, I will explain. When we learn with APIs and all, some concepts will come, I will show you. Security, how we can manage. So, using too many parameters may lead to some effect, some problem. We can handle that using REST. So, what is advantage? REST REST is a single parameter that can handle multiple arguments. It is a single parameter which can handle multiple arguments. Multiple arguments. So here, when you write a function, when you write a function, the rest parameter is defined with dot 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 and rest parameter. Means any name, you can give any parameter name. So what does this means? This now into the name, you can pass multiple arguments, value 1, value 2, value 3. Now all these values are handled by only one parameter. Actually, 10 inputs I am expecting, then I need 10 parameters. But with one parameter, we can handle all 10. That's good. Reducing number of parameters is making your application little safe, right? That means one parameter can handle multiple arguments. And very important here is rest parameter. Rest parameter is an array type parameter. It is an array type parameter. That means what happens? You define dot 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 rest. It is an array. Into that, value 1 will be stored, value 2 will be stored, value 3 will be stored. And you know how to access them? Rest of 0, rest of 1, rest of 2, they will able to access those. That means, for example, see, I am creating one function details. In the details function, I am expecting so many details about a product. Then I will just use dot 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 and product. Any number of parameters, rest is defined with 3 dots. 3 dots and parameter name. Now, what I can do is, whenever I call details, into that I will pass product ID, product name, product related price, product stock, true or false. We can pass any number of arguments. Now all these arguments are stored in product, and this is an array type na. Now how do we handle arrays? You learnt JavaScript arrays. Have you learnt array destructuring? Spread, destructuring, these are all array concepts. No? You don't know array destructures? Destructuring arrays, spread arrays. No? For example, see, means first I will show you destructure, then you will understand. So we have data is equal to array 10, 20, 30. We want to store these three values in three separate reference. In modern JavaScript, what we do, we create three references and we will assign the data. It will store in three references. This is called array destructure. This is array destructuring. In modern JavaScript, we do this. Actually, without this, what to do? Without this destructure, if I want to separate 10, 20, 30 into separate variables, then we have to use A is equal to data of 0. Am I right? Where B equal to data of 1. This is not required now. In modern JavaScript, we don't do that. We just declare 3 A, B, C, and we will put the data. If there is D, then what is the result of D? You know, D is undefined. So it will take this. If you use AB, 30 is ignored, right? You see 3. That means I will say document dot write. I am printing A. So in the next, I will print B. In the next, I will print some C. Roughly, I am using and it is going to print all A, B, C. This is array destructure. This is destructuring of array. That is a concept of arrays in JavaScript. There is another one. Another concept is when you are having data is equal to, or I'll simply say list 1. It is an array 10, 20. I have list 2. This is another array 30, 40. Now I have list 3. Into list 3, I am passing list 1 and list 2. Now how many elements are in list 3? List 3 is having only 2 elements. It is having only 2 elements. At 0, one array. At 1, another array. It doesn't have 4 elements. Am I right? That means I will console log list 3. List 3. That means now you can see here. You can see it is having, let me zoom. Yeah. You can see in the console, it is having only 2 elements in array. At 0, list 1. At 2, at 1, list 2. So you can use dot, dot, dot. This is called spread. Now what it will do is, it is going to spread that list into individual. Now how many elements are in list 3? There are 3 elements in list 3. 10, 20 and list 2. Understood? 10, 20 are spread. This is called spread. That means one array can be spread into independent. That means you can spread the array into independent. Now you can see that now it is having 3 elements. At 0 we have 10, at 1 20, and at 2 there is again arena. Now I will spread this also. Then now we have 4 elements. Now you can see it is having 4 elements. This is actually the new concept of JavaScript related arrays. So I'm not sure how much you learned about array, but these are all array basics, right? That means in JavaScript array, you need to know all these concepts. Array destructuring, array spread, how it works. Now this technique we will implement here. Function is details, dot, dot, dot. We are using what? Product. And what we will do now into this, we will put a simple, I am expecting several details like ID, name, price, stock. Then what I will do is I will create a destructuring technique. So ID, name, price and stock. Into that we will assign the product. This is destructuring now. And now we can print all the details. Document.write ID is equal to ID. So name is equal to some name. And price is equal to some price. And stock is equal to stock. Whatever the stock you define. And you can see that this is how it is going to print. So what is a REST parameter purpose? We can reduce the number of parameters, not number of arguments. Number of arguments will be same, but number of parameters are reduced. This will prevent memory leaks. This will make your functions more safer. You can handle multiple arguments, but parameter will be only one. Parameter will be only one. This is one important point you should know. So if it is an array type, how you can access, right? So you can access REST parameter and store arguments into individual references using array D structure. Using array D structure. By using array D structure mechanism, we can do that. So generally, I will give a syntax here. We have a function name and any REST parameter name, and we have var reference 1 reference 2 is equal to what is it? REST. This is destructuring. Into the name, we can have value 1 and we can have value 2. We can pass multiple arguments. So you pass multiple arguments, we can separate them and we can use them. Right? Roughly, I will give you this example. I will copy this example for your understanding. Sample. So this is REST parameter. So what is a REST parameter? What is a REST parameter? One parameter that can handle multiple arguments. So JavaScript function can have one parameter which can handle multiple arguments, right? Now we have some rules actually. Every function can have only one REST parameter. And another point is REST parameter must be the last parameter in formal list. It must be the last parameter in formal list. So every function can have only one REST parameter. And that REST parameter must be the last. It must be the last parameter in formal list. So you see now, you can have other parameters with REST parameter. But suppose I am writing title. I cannot have like this because you see REST parameter must be last. So you can put here title before it. So can we have other parameters while using REST parameter? Yes, but REST must be last. Now you see here, I am passing before these parameters. This is title, product details. First one is your parameter, others are into REST. Now here I am printing, suppose here I am printing a heading and here I will print the title. So I will print the title and heading close and I will print other details. And you can see it is going to use the other parameter along with REST. So we can have other parameters along with REST, but make sure that REST parameter is last. It is at last. Okay. This is another point. I will copy this example. This is the example of REST. So I hope you have a complete clarity on what is REST. So REST is for safety and handling memory leaks. And every REST parameter is an array type. You can store any number of arguments into it. But it must be only one and it must be last. Now in interviews, see, for freshers, limited. For experienced people, interviews, they go very extreme. If you are experienced person, we will ask you like, why a rest parameter must be last? So for a fresher, knowing about rest parameter is too much enough. We don't expect more than that from a learner, right? So why it must be a last parameter? Because it is an array type and it uses an iterator for reading all elements in array up to end. That is the reason an iterator cannot have anything after it ends. What is the technique used for reading an array? We use an for each or we use maps. They are called iterators. What an iterator will do, it will read from 1 to n. And that is the reason there cannot be anything after n. So that means why a rest parameter must be last? Because rest parameters are used, they are accessed using an iterator. And iterator can read up to n. That's the reason you cannot have anything after n. So it should be the end. You cannot have anything after n. So what is the reason? That is because of iterator. So if anyone asks this question, why rest parameter must be last in formal list? So answer is it uses an iterator to read all arguments. So, and what is the point? Iterator so cannot have any value after end. That is the reason. So iterator reads up to end. There cannot be a value after end. So you cannot have any value after it. So that is the basic point about rest. Now function have a spread approach also. Function can use spread. In array I showed you spread. Dot 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 and spread. You see now here. Suppose this time I am having so many parameters, ID, name, price, and what? Stock. And what I will do is I will remove this. I am trying to print. Now you are having so many parameters, but here when you pass, I will create where product is equal to array. In that I will put ID, name, price. I will store everything in one array and I will pass this array into it. That means now what is the result of this? So you are sending product into the details function. Product is what type? Array type. Then what is the result of this detail function now? What it will print? It will print 1 TV 45,000 true. All this it will store in ID. All it will store in ID. And others are undefined. Because how many arguments are expected? 4. How many you are passing? 1. How it will be satisfied? That means this will be stored in first one. That will be stored in the first one. That means now what happens is that ID contains all the details. So that means ID contains all the title. I will remove. ID contains all the details. In ID, it will store all of them. But what I want is, I want this array to spread into individual references. Then dot, dot, dot. it can spread into individual references. This is spread. In array, I showed you how we spread array elements separate. To spread, it is an array now. Product is an array. How you will separate them? Just by using a spread operator. So now tell me, what is difference between rest and spread? Rest and spread, both are same? No, both are not same. Rest is about the formal parameter and spread is about actual parameter. That means rest means one parameter allows multiple arguments. Spread means one argument that can spread into multiple parameters. Both are different, but both are defined in same way, dot, 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 right? So here, what is the concept of spread? Another point I will give here. Function can use a spread operator. We call it as spread operator. Spread operator can spread an array elements into individual references. An array element into individual references. And remember, it should be an array element only. An array element you can spread. I will show you what I explained in array first. So list 1, 10, 20. So list 2. So 30, 40, like this. Now list 3, list 1 and list 2. This makes how many elements are there? 2 elements. 2 elements. So how many elements in list 3? 2 elements in list 3. Right? We have 2 elements in list 3. So if I say like this, dot, 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 list 1 and list 2. Now how many elements are there? 3 elements in list 3. What are those? 10, 20 and list 2. Am I right? So we have list 3 and into that we have dot, dot, list 1 and dot, dot, list 2. That means now how many elements? 4. 4 elements in list 3. So you have 10, 20, 30 and 40. That is the nature of spread. So spread operator, it can spread an array element into individual references. This is what we use in function. This is what we use in function. Function is having a name. We have parameter 1, parameter 2, parameter 3. You can have multiple parameters. But what we do is, into the name, we are passing, suppose, array, value 1, value 2, and value 3. If we pass like this, then what happen? Parameter 1 will contain value 1, value 2, and value 3. All 3 are stored in first parameter only, na? How to separate them? Dot, 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 value 1, value 2, and value 3. This is going to spread them into individual references. So parameter, yeah. So this is parameter. Parameter 1 is value 1, parameter 2 is value 2, and parameter 3, param 3 is having value 3. I hope everyone understood. So now the question is, what is difference? Difference between rest and the spread. I will copy this example roughly for your reference. That's an example. So what is difference between REST? So let's see the answer. REST is a single formal parameter that can handle multiple arguments. Am I right? So spread is a single argument, single array type only. Yeah? Single array type argument that spreads its elements into individual references. Am I right? So a single array type argument that spreads its elements into individual. That is spread. This is about rest and spread, right? So these are all generally spread operators and all generally we learn in data types itself. When you learn data types operators, these type of concepts will come. So this is one example you need to understand. So function parameters. I hope everyone clear about REST parameter, spread, default parameters, how you configure the default parameters. Okay. Next important, these are all you should know about parameters. How many parameters we can have, why we cannot have too many parameters. These all concepts are important. What type of parameters we can have, right? It can be array, string, or it can primitive, non-primitive, or function. And if it is a function, we call it as what? Higher order function, right? These are all things you should know about parameters. Huh? This is all about parameters. Next important is after understanding parameters, you should know function with return. Another very important point, function with return. Now, this is very important concept to understand. So if anyone asks you why we need a function with return, usually you will see people say that it returns a value, right? Now, what interviewer will ask you, what kind of statement return is? What type of statement return is? JavaScript or any programming language have different categories of statements. Selection statements, looping statements, iteration statements, jump statements, exception handling statements, right? What are the JavaScript statements? I will just put a simple overview for you people. You know already, but just I am giving a simple one. JavaScript statements, we have selection. Selection statements means if, else, switch case, default. These all selection statements. We have looping. We have for, while, do while. So in JavaScript, iteration statements, we have for in is an iterator, for off is an iterator. We have jump statements. Jump statement is break, return, continue. These are jump statements. We have exception handling statements. Exception handling statements like try, catch, throw, finally. These are all different types of statements. These are all JavaScript different statements. Now, what is the return statement? Return is what type? Return is what type of statement? Jump statement. So, what is the purpose of this jump statement? What it does? It will transfer. Huh? Return will switch. Huh? Return is a jump statement. Can I write return? Can I write return in a void function? We can write return in a void function. You can't write. Huh? I will prove. Right? See, here we are having a function, and this function is some demo. It is having document dot write statement 1 break. Okay, we have statement 1, 2, 3, 4 like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like this. Now it is a void function. And in this, after 3, I will use a return statement. Still, it is a void function only. Now I will print demo, and you can see that it is going to print only up to 3. So you can have a return statement in a void function, right? Now, if you say return is used to return a value, that is proved wrong. What interviewer will ask you, like, return is a jump statement, how it will return a value? That is the question. How a jump statement returns a value? Jump statement will skip, na? So what will happen now? Do you know what is happening with 4 and 5? If any statement is written after this return keyword, that is called unreachable code. It is called unreachable code. That means compiler cannot reach that. It is called unreachable code. Compilers can never reach to that code. That means what is difference between break and return? Break will skip, return also will skip. Break will stop the execution. What is difference between break and return? For example, we have a switch case. Can we end a case with return? Yes. Array, everything I am telling you. Huh? Huh? Right? See, for example, here, because this is the main concept to understand return keyword. Suppose I am having a demo function. I am having n parse int, enter prompt, and we say enter number. We are having a switch, into that we will pass n. Case is 1. Then we will put document dot write 1, and we will put a break. Case is 2. Document dot write, we will say 2, but I will use return. Instead of break, I will use return. Right? And case 3, I'm using document dot write. I say 3, and I will use break. Now I will call this demo function. And you see here, first observe, I'm running here. I entered 1, it is working fine. I entered 2, it is also working fine. But after 2, I used return. Am I right? And 3, it is working fine. Then what is difference between break and return? Break is terminating the block, but it will stay inside the function. After terminating the block, it will stay inside the function, but return will terminate the compiling. Return will terminate the compiling. That means it will exit the complete functionality. So if there is no more work to do, just it should stop. Then you use return. If there is some more to do, then you use a break. That means I will show you. Practically, we will see. Observe carefully. I will go to the category here. You go to application category in debugger. This is application. We have source category. Where is source? This is source. Where is source? I think this is source. Yeah. Go to the sources category. In the sources category, we have demo.html. Open the demo.html. This is the code. At line number 4, click and put a breakpoint. At line number 4, the compiling will stop. The compiling will stop. We put a breakpoint. After that, now you run the program again. You click the breakpoint will remove again. You click, it will put a breakpoint. Now once refresh. When we refresh, number, I entered 1. Okay. You see, n is now 1. After that, after verifying that line, click on this next button. This arrow is go to next step. Click on next step. It will go to the case. It will execute the case. After that, because case 1 is matching, it will come to break. After break, observe carefully. When I click, the compiler stays still in the function. You can see the compiler, it is still in the function. It is still in the function. Okay. Let's finish this. Okay, 1 is printed. Let's run one more time. This time I will use 2 and see what happens. It will come to 2. Click on step over. It will go to case 2. After that, it will execute the return. After return, observe carefully. When I click, it will come out of the script. It is not anymore inside the function. It stops compiling. That is the difference between break and return. We can use both. Break terminates, but still stays the compiling on. Remember, if you write return, that means the compilation stops. Anything after return is not reachable to compiler. Understood? That means whatever the code you write after return, it is not reachable to compiler. Understood my point? Yeah, keep this in mind. Now let's go. We will go to, you have seen that, how it comes out. Okay, let's go into this now. I am writing one function, add a comma b. And what I have to do, calculate a plus b and store in some location. So I'm using where C is equal to A plus B. I'm using another function result. In this function, I have to print the result. Document.write, document.write. I'm printing C is equal to the value of C. Is it okay? It's not okay. Why? Because the C is a local variable. It is not accessible outside. Na? It is not accessible outside. Now tell me why it is not accessible outside. Why it is not accessible outside add? It is local variable. So you are saying that C is restricted in the block. You are saying that C is restricted inside the function. Am I right? C is restricted and you are trying to access a restricted one. Am I right? Then what should be the error message? You are trying to access an restricted one. That means what should be the error message about C? If it is restriction, it should say C cannot be accessed. If it is restriction, it should say that C cannot be accessed. Why it says undefined? Undefined means what? C is not there. Understood the point? That means you are saying that C is not accessible to this second function. Am I right? But I am saying that it is not there at all. C is deleted. It is not there. It is deleted. And how you can access a deleted one? That means generally people say it is restricted. Not restricted. If it is restricted, it should show that C is not accessible. Am I right? But it is showing the message. You see here. I will try here result. When I run the result, first I will run A also, na? Add 10, 20 I will run. And observe here in the console, let's open the console and run this. You can see it is acha. I will remove the breakpoint. I will refresh. So you can see it says C is not defined. C is not defined. If C is restricted, it should say C cannot be accessed. It is saying that C is not defined. Do you know why? Because see, I will tell you a simple scenario. What happens? A compiler starts with add. Then a memory is allocated. A memory is allocated for that function add. Now what happens is, in this memory, it will perform this operation. Am I right? In that memory, it will perform that operation. That means C is equal to 10 plus 20 like this. After performing the operation, very important, you should know that after that, when it comes to this location, this is the block, na? When it comes to this location, this memory is deleted. So the memory is allocated here, am I right? And memory is destroyed here. The memory allocated for a function is destroyed. Then how you will access the memory which is not there? Now see the interesting part here. Now what I am doing is here, I am using return. I am using return. Do you know what happens now? When I use return, here the memory is allocated for add. Am I right? Memory is allocated for add. For add, memory is allocated. In that, these two are performed. How much? 10 plus 20. That means it is going to perform these two operations. Am I right? You know that it will flow right to left order precedence, na? So now it will go to return statement. What return will do is it will terminate the function before it ends. It will terminate the function before it ends. That means the memory allocated for function is still available. Memory is not destroyed. Understood? Huh? The memory allocated for the function is not destroyed because it will never reach here now. That means now what happens? The 10 plus 20 is stored under the reference of what? Add. It is stored under the reference of add. Can I access this add and use it here? I can access that add and use it here because it is in the same scope. Na? You can access and use it here. That means what is happening here? I will just put here addition. And addition is equal to, here we are accessing, what we are accessing? Add 30, 20. That means now we need to just access the result. Now what happens here is these two values are sent into this. It will allocate a memory. Am I right? In that memory, it will perform this operation. After performing this operation, return will not allow to destroy the memory. Will not allow to destroy the memory. It will just exit. Then this memory is still available. You can access and use it. Is return returning a value? Is return returning a value? No, it is not returning a value. Just it is keeping your memory alive. Return keeps the memory of the function alive. What does void means? Void means that don't return the memory. That means don't keep the memory after you finish. Void meaning is what? Void meaning means, see, I am talking to you. You listened, you heard everything what I spoken. And after that, you are in a void state. That means you are not responding. You are not returning any response. Means nothing is gone into your brain. Understood? Huh? That means it's all gone. That's usual approach, na? Generally happens with you, na? No? Right? I have told you so many things. You heard very carefully everything, but finally gone. That means you are always in void state. Am I right? That is void state. What return means? Return means that it will be alive. Even I finished, you are still alive. Don't get dead. Right? You need to keep alive. So what is advantage of that? So that I can use from anywhere. I can use from anywhere. So if you are not void, you will tell me every answer tomorrow. Understood? Huh? So why? Because your memory is still alive. That is the nature of a function with return. It is not for returning the values. It is just for keeping the memory alive. It is keeping the memory alive so that you can access and use anywhere. You can access and use the memory anywhere. For example, you see now, when I access this, it is going to return that result. It is going to return the result. Now, is add function returning a number? No. Add function is returning a memory. In that memory, you can store anything. You can store anything. You can see that now add, it can return anything. You can store any kind of data. You can store any type of data. Remember, this is the basic logic in every technology in the world. Whatever programming technology you are learning, everywhere the concept of return, break, all are same. I'm not talking about JavaScript, because the same thing we teach in .NET and other technologies also, same concept about return, right? It is not about returning values. If you say returning value, then obviously 100% at high level interviews, they ask how a jump statement return value, because return is a jump statement. That means it jumps out of the memory before destroying the memory. What is advantage? That memory, the add memory is still alive. That means you can store anything into this. You can store anything into this. So how you will answer this question? Why you need a function with return? Remember, without return, you can do it with a global variable. You can declare one global variable. The result of A plus B can be stored in that variable. That means what happens if you do use more variables? Memory overloads, right? What is the main purpose of using a function and keeping its memory alive? We can reduce memory overloads, so that in the same memory where we performed an action, we can store its result also. Am I right? We used a memory for performing action. We are using another memory for storing the data. We are using two memories. When you need function with return, if you need continuous operations, same data is used across various location again and again, then better always write a function with a return. If you want disconnected operations, then you write a function void. That means it will allocate memory, perform the operation, use your values, and destroy the memory. So if anyone asks in real time where we use function with return and function with void, if you need a value across continuous operations, then better always use return. If you want disconnected operations, allocate memory, perform the operation, disconnect, then you go with void type. So a developer should know when to use a function with return and function with void. These are important things you need to understand. So what is the purpose of function with return? Actually, return is a jump statement. Return is a jump statement. It is a jump statement. What it does? So it returns the memory of function. It returns the memory of function. It keeps the memory alive. So and continuous and good for continuous operations. It is good for continuous operations. So if you need a value across multiple requests, then configure using a function with return. You can define by using a function with return. These are the key points you should know. And what syntax here is, we have a function name, and it can return any. A function can return anything. Any means what? It can be primitive types. It can be non-primitive types, non-primitive, or it can be a function also. A function can return a function, right? And very important is, if a function returns another function, then it is known as higher order function. Higher order function. And the process is called as function currying. We call it as function currying. So in interviews, if anyone asks what is higher order function, a function having function as parameter is a higher order, or a function returning a function is a higher order function. The process of a function returning a function is called function currying. We call this mechanism function currying. Right? We have function currying. That means what is that function currying? I will show you one simple point here. So how it can handle the function currying. One small example I will show. Suppose we are having a demo here. So function demo. This demo function return a function. This function will again return a function. You can have any. This will return hello. Now how to access this? Finally, demo is returning a string. So document.write, I need to print the string. So I will access demo. In demo memory, in the demo memory, there is an anonymous function. We call it with a parenthesis. That anonymous function is again having a memory alive. In that memory, again, there is a function. That function is again parenthesis by using IIFE pattern, right? That means this is the parent function memory. In that there is a function. In that function memory, again, there is a function. That function is returning hello. That means what it will do, we will print that hello world and we will show. This process is called function currying. Right? A function can return a function. We can have a function with return function. This is an example for that. This is called as function currying. Now we have function chaining, function closure, so many. Tomorrow we will continue. So in tomorrow's session, we can finish all the function topic because functions is a very big concept. So we have to spend at least 2-3 days on understanding them because this is what we do in React. Right? So you learned 3 topics: how to configure function and function parameters, and one more is function return. While working with function return, some more concepts are there that we will see in tomorrow's session. Tomorrow mostly we will finish all function topic, but we will try because so many are there. Function callbacks, function recursion, asynchronous functions, so much is there to learn. Tomorrow we'll do. Right? Everyone following now? Why we are learning this? Because React completely deals with functions. So you must be very strong at functions. So you need more depth than what you have learned earlier. Right? So I hope everyone understood. Right. Tomorrow we'll see. Thank you.